And the little ships are nearly as big as a city. And they come to destroy the earth. Don't worry. It's the 4th of July. It's the 4th of July. And America, you know, has got a president who just happened to be an ex-president of war. Well trained. Right? So what happens is, in this amazing film, is he has to be Jewish, right? A Jewish young boy, right, decides the way to get rid of these aliens is by planting a computer virus on their spaceship. So he gets his floppy disk, on which is his computer virus, right? Flies up in a captured alien spaceship, which just happens to have a Second World War joystick for flying. These aliens haven't heard fly by wire, right? It just happened to fly up there, okay? And they plant this computer virus on the alien spaceship. Fantastic, isn't it? These aliens travel all the way across the universe. Can you imagine the technology they must have needed to amass for all of that? And in spite of all of this, these aliens didn't have a virus checker on board the computer system. But don't worry, it's the 4th of July. You know, there used to be, I used to go to teachers when I was student. There was a little guy, heckler, so the heckler just come and make music. Probably very money. They didn't need to win yet. They didn't need to win the war yet. They won it in the movies. They won it in the movies. In Rambo, all the rest of it. Well, what is it? It's kind of a miserable person. Sit down and watches that kind of stuff and actually enjoys it. Why? Why do people spend, they go and get drunk? You know what? I don't know if it's a university, but it has to be a university. This is the idea of these guys having a good time. They come home 3 in the morning, they come back from a night of drinking. They're finally sick, and they fall asleep, you know, in their own sick. Wake up the next morning. You know, I used to have a really good time last night. However we say it here, right? What did we say in here? Oh, it was a really good time last night. Oh, yeah. He said, really? What did you do? I don't remember. That's why I'm such a good time. He had a good time? How did he know he had a good time? Because he can't remember what he did. So we take drugs. What? I was stoned. I was completely wasted. I was zonked. I was out of it, man. I was floating on cloud 9. But look at these words. Stoned, wasted, is describing a state of self-annihilation. That's what it is. When you have reached the state where you have forgotten yourself, when you have removed yourself from yourself. Is this a description of happiness? Is this a description of people who are happy? No. It's not a description of people who are happy. This is a description of people who are desperately running away from death. And the only time they can seem to get a moment of relief is when they escape into this world of fantasy. Take away their fantasy. Take away their music. Take away their films. Take away their drink. And then you will see how really happy they are. Similarly, I remember watching a documentary about rape. I don't know if I had in Australia. All rape have rape, right? These guys would be up in the middle of the countryside and just massive houses of them, and they would have music going all night. So one of the things that they would people die. People die. And this guy was so concerned. They asked him why. Why did you come here? You know, come here. He said, I want to come here, and then I dance. And I dance and I dance and I dance. I keep on dancing until I forget myself. I forget myself. I become lost. And he's describing the state of full self-annihilation. And that's what it's about. Fantasy and escapism. So you have to understand that the consumer society, the society, whose people at the top of this society, the ruling elite, they're the ones who produce the magazines, the fashions, the movies, alcohol, all these things that you consume consistently. They are the ones, they don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to be, they need you to be miserable, because miserable people consume. Miserable people need to fill miserable lives with all of these things to try and make their misery a little bit better. So in reality, it is a society that actually needs people to be miserable. It needs them to be miserable. And it knows that. The people at the top know that. And that is why religion in general, but not religion only in general, but most specifically Islam, is the greatest enemy to this false, lying and devious philosophy. The philosophy of consumer society, of the sex, drugs and rock and roll culture. Islam is the greatest enemy. Because Islam gives contentment. People who are content do not consume. Someone who is content, okay, so my Walkman is 25 years old, but it still plays the Quran, it still records the lectures I go to. What do I need a more fancy one for? Someone is content. They're not always looking for the latest gadget, the latest this, the latest that. Because they know, these people, that happiness is not by surrounding yourself with material things, because the reality is, as much as you have, you want more, and you never get satisfied. So this consumer society is a proof against itself. It is a proof against itself. Look and see with your eyes. Look at these people who are the idols, and they even give them name idols, rock idol, sex goddess. They give them a name, as if they are deities. And these are the ones they put up in front of us to say, look, this is what you want to achieve. The stars, they call them the stars, because what? They're way up there, in the heavens. The stars, reach the stars, they tell you. Huh? They've got everything. They're famous, they're beautiful, they're rich. They've got it all. But then let's look at them. The reality of these stars, these idols. A string of them, one after the other. And it's not a new thing. He was saying Kurt Cobain, his name. The other one, from Total Excess or Excess, whatever it was, I can't remember his name. He died here in Australia. Okay, Hutch, whatever his name is. I mean, who cares, right? Okay, the guy himself, right? But for, you know, not only them. Let's go back. Go back to the supreme sex goddess, Marilyn Monroe. Beautiful, rich, famous. She had all, did she? So how did she die? Huh? She committed suicide. If this is supposed to be the answer to life, the purpose of life, reason of existence, that surrounding yourself with these things is the source of happiness, there when we look at these people who have it all, we seem to find the opposite. You look at the list of millionaires, Alexander